Hey there. This week on The Wrap, it's all eyes on Pali's police ad hoc committee hearings as it stirs up more drama, with Deputy Police Minister Cassel Mathale caught in a bit of confusion. Sticking with law enforcement, Panyaza Lesufi's wardens have been given the boot. On a lighter note, South Africa crowns a brand new Miss SA, and the women's cricket team is hitting it big, smashing their way into a World Cup final. Abroad, Hurricane Melissa is wreaking havoc across the Caribbean, while Cameroon's president keeps breaking age records, and not in a good way. There's also been a surprise twist with the Louvre heist that you'll want to read about. Meanwhile, the last weekend's Mandela Lecture sparked drama as Francesca Albanese made waves, and the Ekurhuleni land expropriation case is making everyone Google land law again. So let's dive into these stories and more in this week's wrap, brought to you by myself, Verashni Pillay, and the Explained Akosa team. First up in your national news, Deputy Police Minister Cassel Mathale first learned the famous political killings task force had been shut down via social media and thought it was fake news. According to his testimony at Parliament's ad hoc committee this week, he's now suspended boss Senzo ordered an immediate shutdown back in 2024 without consulting Mathale, National Commissioner Fanny Masimola, who was on leave, or even President Ramaphosa, who established the team in 2018. I don't know what was going through his mind, said Mathale. Indeed. Only 3 Afrikaner refugees turned up for a US flight meant for 50 in September. Sources told the Washington Post travelers had changed their minds or postponed the trip to sell property and so on. The Trump administration, however, insists things are on track. They've slashed actual refugees, and Afrikaners could make up over 90% of their refugee intake this year. Meanwhile, nearly 50 prominent Afrikaans figures signed an open letter on Saturday rejecting the use of their story to feed America's far-right Great Replacement myth. South Africa is officially off the Financial Action Task Force grey list. Think of it as the global naughty list for weak anti-money laundering and counter-terror financing controls. The global watchdog flagged South Africa back in February 2023 after 2.5 years of cleanup. The body's president, Elise de Amanda Madrazo, announced on Friday that South Africa's name had been cleared alongside Mozambique, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. The markets loved it, with the rand strengthening to 0.5% to 17 rand 25 cents against the dollar. Protea women are through to their first ever World Cup after smashing defending champions England by 125 runs. The standout duo Laura Wolfart and Marizanne Kaap led South Africa to a historic win in Wednesday's semi-finals at the Baraspara Stadium in India. The Proteas will now face the winner of Thursday's semi between Australia and India in Sunday's final. Excitement is building as Mzansi waits to see if the women can bring home the trophy for the first time ever. There's a new queen in town. Awekazi Mazaleni has been crowned Miss South Africa 2025. The 24-year-old speech therapist from East London snagged the title at the Sun Square Arena on Saturday night, taking over from last year's winner, Mia Leroux. Along with the crown, Mazaleni walks away with 1 million rand, a fully furnished luxury apartment, and a stack of prizes fit for royalty. Awekazi's promise to her country to champion education. Hear, hear. Moving on to international news, Jamaica has been declared a national disaster zone after Hurricane Melissa tore through the island as a Category 5 storm. Prime Minister Andrew Holness confirmed widespread destruction and internet blackouts on Thursday. Now, downgraded to a Category 1 storm, Melissa is expected to cause dangerous storm surges in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, following floods in Cuba as a Category 3 storm on Wednesday. Over 30 deaths have currently been reported across territories. Cameroon's longtime ruler, Paul Biya, is not going anywhere. The 92-year-old president, already the world's oldest sitting leader, claimed over 53% of the vote on Monday, extending his 43-year reign. This possibly keeps him in power until he's nearly 100 years old. His rival called the result a masquerade and declared himself the real winner. Protests erupted, leaving at least 4 dead. Critics say the election was less about democracy and more about Biya proving he still runs the show. In Europe, police in Paris have arrested 7 suspects allegedly involved in the cinematic 19th October Louvre jewelry heist. 2 were arrested on Saturday using DNA found on the scooters they used to escape. They've partially admitted to their role, according to authorities. A further 5 were nabbed on Wednesday, but the jewels, worth an eye-watering 1.7 billion rands, are still missing. And Paris' public prosecutor says she's now worried her team may have jeopardized the case by revealing news of the arrests. In gaming news, Microsoft is ditching Xbox exclusivity for its crown jewel Halo. A 25th anniversary remake of the 2001 classic called Halo Combat Evolved won't just appear on Xbox, it will also hit PlayStation 5 in 2026, the first time the series has appeared on a rival console. Why the shift? Console wars aren't the battle anymore. Xbox chief Matt Booty says they're competing with TikTok, movies, and mobile games for attention. So instead of locking players in, Microsoft is going where the audience is. In health news, tough news for bacon lovers as scientists call for cancer warning labels on bacon and ham sold in the UK. Recent research links these processed meats to bowel cancer thanks to nitrites, the preservative that keeps meat pink. 10 years after the World Health Organization declared processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco and asbestos, no action has been taken despite 5,400 preventable bowel cancer cases annually, costing the NHS in the UK £3 billion. Moving on to your big story. In 2023, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, in full superhero pose, launched the Panyaza crime-busting squad. The rather narcissistically named crime wardens consisted of 8,000 unemployed youngsters suddenly turned orange-vested peace officers. Crime gone. Unemployment also gone. It looked good on paper, but the Panyaza never really delivered. The wardens lacked proper training, legal authority, and clear oversight. In the end, it felt more like a PR stunt than a real solution to Gauteng's crime problems. Last week, Public Protector Koleka Tsaleka declared it unlawful and unconstitutional. Seeing the writing on the wall, Lesufi disbanded the wardens hours before the release of her report. Aleka ruled that the initiative violated 2 areas covered by the Constitution, preventing provinces from policing and preventing power grabs. Without gazetted peace officer status under the Criminal Procedure Act, wardens risked civil suits for unlawful arrests. Basically, because they weren't officially recognized as police, the wardens could have been sued for making illegal arrests. In addition, their training via the South African National Defence Force breached the Army's defence-only mandate. There were other concerns. The cost breakdown for maintaining the Panyaza was brutal, with estimates totaling way above 1.5 billion rand and still growing, according to DA Gauteng leader Salem Simanga. This includes salaries, uniforms, vehicles, and looming lawsuits. The DA has since tabled a no-confidence motion demanding Lesufi's removal, calling the initiative reckless. In an op-ed, Daily Maverick Stephen Grootes noted the saga underscores populism's allure amid Gauteng's crime crisis, where millions live in fear. Lesufi promised action. Instead, he delivered a wasteful scheme, potentially exposing the province to lawsuits from undertrained wardens or abused residents. But this isn't just about one failed stunt. Across the political spectrum, populist stunts are on the rise. Herman Mashaba's Action South Africa just tapped a literal vigilante, Xolani Khumalo, as its Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate. In April, murder charges against Khumalo were withdrawn following an incident where he allegedly tortured and killed an alleged drug dealer. Then there's the overtly populist Patriotic Alliance, which saw a narrow win in a Soweto by-run election recently, showing small parties can punch above their weight in low turnout areas. And of course, Umkhonto we Sizwe pushes ethnic mobilization and constitutional abolition, while EFF leader Julius Malema doubles down after his recent rifle conviction. According to Grootes, the temptations of populism are rising, and it is clear that many politicians will be more likely to succumb to it in the next few years. As the 2026 local government elections loom, let's remember that declining voter turnout amplifies fringe voices. We need to all vote and encourage others around us to do the same so that we don't keep rewarding the loud demagogues of steady hands. Moving on to your next story, we've heard plenty about land expropriation without compensation, and now South Africa is about to see the entire principle being tested by the courts. Back in 2019, the city of Ekurhuleni expropriated 34 hectares in Rietfontein for housing and offered zero compensation. Note, this was before our new land bill was in effect, detailing how expropriation without compensation should work. Former city manager Imogen Mashazi defended the zero offer, pointing to the land's 30-year vacancy, lack of development, and no commercial activity. Court papers explain the city's reasoning. It took the land to meet its statutory obligations for social housing, citing the Housing Act and the Constitution, which does allow expropriation for public purposes. The landowners, Business Venture Investments 900, are not disputing the expropriation itself. They're arguing over the city's offer of, well, nothing. The company bought the land in 2005 for 1 million rand and say that today it's worth anywhere between 30 and 64 million rand. Now that 2019 incident is heading to court to test the principle for the first time. Mediation kicks off on Friday with a Gauteng High Court trial penciled in for February next year if talks collapse. That's because South Africa currently has no active law that explicitly allows for land expropriation without compensation. The Expropriation Act of 2024, which would allow for zero compensation under specific conditions, has been passed but is not yet in effect. As Dr. Tanveer Jiwa, an advanced property law lecturer at Stellenbosch University, told Eyewitness News, the city appears to be misinterpreting the law by arguing its offer is just and equitable. Rather, the doctor says, until the Expropriation Act of 2024 commences, no compensation has no statutory footing. So, under the current law, compensation must meet the Constitution's just and equitable standard, not necessarily market value, but not automatically zero either. Quick reminder, the new Expropriation Act, signed but not yet in force, would allow zero payment in some cases, like land held purely for speculation. The new bill lays out a legal balance between addressing historic injustices and protecting legitimate property rights, ensuring fair and transparent procedures rather than arbitrary land grabs, i.e., this is not Zimbabwe 2.0. It is necessary. Remember when government agreed to pay 1 billion rand for the exclusive game lodge Mala Mala back in 2013? The insanely expensive deal at the taxpayers' expense, was shrouded in secrecy and wiped out most of the National Land Claims Commission budget for that year. Friday's mediation could either set a new precedent for land reform or kick off a constitutional showdown. Either way, South Africa is about to see how far expropriation without payment can really go. Finally, South Africa hosted a prized voice on Palestine this past weekend at the Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture in Johannesburg. UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, attracted significant interest given what's happening in Gaza and South Africa's position on the genocide. And Albanese delivered. Known for her outspoken criticism of Israel's war on Gaza, her lecture was fiery, emotional, and unapologetically political. An Italian human rights expert, Albanese called out UN member states, urging them to impose arms embargoes, halt trade, and boycott Israel amid the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Her latest report, Gaza Genocide, a Collective Crime, delivered remotely to the UN General Assembly on Tuesday, accuses 63 states, led by the US, Germany, and the UK, of complicity with the State of Israel through diplomatic cover, arms supplies, and economic ties. Her proposed fix: dust off the old anti-apartheid playbook by implementing boycotts, embargoes, and real pressure. And remember that solidarity isn't just an emotion, it's boots on the ground action. The states accused in Albanese's Gaza complicity report, led by the US, which sanctioned her back in July, have largely responded by attacking her credibility and bias rather than addressing the substance of her allegations. Sure enough, moments after her address on Saturday, a sheriff approached Albanese while on stage in front of a 3,500-person audience and attempted to serve her US court papers. The documents from two pro-Israel groups, Christian Friends of Israel Communities and Christian for Israel's USA, accused Albanese of defamation for linking them to illegal settlements. It's unclear who authorized the move, but South Africa's Justice Minister Mamaloko Kubai apologized on Sunday. The papers violated South African law, which requires foreign civil process requests to be approved by the minister and transmitted via the Director General. The Nelson Mandela Foundation blasted the disruption, while a Jewish advocacy group, the National Jewish Advocacy Center, slammed South Africa for grossly insulting the US judicial system. All this played out against a grim backdrop. Gaza's fragile US-brokered ceasefire, effective from 10th of October, faces collapse. Israel struck northern Gaza on Wednesday, killing at least 104 people, including 46 children, in overnight bombardments, citing Hamas violations. US officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, insisted ceasefire holds despite what he calls skirmishes. But Gaza officials have reported 80 violations since the ceasefire began, with 97 Palestinians killed. As Mandela himself once put it, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. That's it from us at The Wrap, an award-winning product of Explain.coza. Remember to share the love, tell your friends to sign up at explain.coza/subscribe. Till next time, goodbye from the team.